Everybody's gonna die next week, and I don't know how to handle this. Grossi Posse, Game of Thrones Nation, welcome back to another episode of Game of Toms. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and today we are breaking down and reviewing Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 2, what is basically the calm before the storm. Now, I know after reading a few people's thoughts and opinions on last week's episode, people were a little upset about how slow things were going, and you had to realize that last week was going to be, I don't want to say a filler episode, but kind of like a reuniting episode. And then this episode felt different in that I feel like this was really the epitome of this is the last time that we are going to see some of these characters, considering that the battle for Winterfell is next week's, and you know that some people aren't going to make it out. And I feel like this was like everybody saying and doing what they needed to do before they were about to die. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. So first things first, picking up right off from last week where we had Bran being Creepy McCreeperton and just staying out there in the snow and overnight because they have no handicap ramps, is just waiting for Jaime. And Jaime kind of went through a trial as soon as he got to Winterfell because he has problems with Bran, he has problems with Sansa, he has problems with Dany, and so all these people are kind of coming at him. And then you have Tyrion on one side who is trying to defend him. And I think the best part about that is they're all going back and forth is that Bran throws the words, the things we do for love, right at Jaime. And of course, that's what Jaime said as he pushed Bran out the window in the first episode of season 1. And something that was interesting is after when Bran and Jaime were talking is that Bran did not tell anybody that Jaime was the one who pushed him out the window because he's like, hey bro, like I need you. You're needed for this war that's about to occur. And so like right now, I'm intrigued on a couple of things. We'll get to Jaime in a second, but like with Bran, like how much does he know? Like does he know everything that's about to happen? Obviously he's going to be set up as bait for the next episode. He's going to be waiting in the Godswood for the Night King because he's very clear, and this is kind of the first time we get some of the intentions of the Night King on who he's looking for, and considering he wants to destroy all man, right, because that's what he was created to do, and he really is looking to wipe them out, the best way to do it, as Sam was even saying, is to wipe out Bran the Three-Eyed Raven, because he knows the entire past, present, and even some aspects of the future when it comes to being the Three-Eyed Raven. And so if the Night King wanted to wipe out their history, he's the guy to go to. And so that was like a little bit with Jaime in that he was able to skirt away from that danger. But of course, Brienne came to his aid and basically said, listen, I vouch for him, which changed the minds of Sansa, Jon, and then Dany kind of reluctantly had to go along with it. Now, this is, again, there was a lot of tension between Jon and Dany in this episode, obviously building into the final reveal moments before the Night King and his army arrived at Winterfell, basically revealing that he is Aegon Targaryen. He is the last male heir to the throne and has the rightful claim to the throne. And then there was really no time for reaction there. And so I think what I find most intriguing is, are both of these characters going to survive the battle that is next week? Or is Dany going to die? Or is Jon going to die? Because I feel like how are they going to work this out after the battle? It's like, hey, we won, but there's still a lot to go and sift through. And that was even said multiple times throughout this episode. Dany's conversation with Sansa, for example, in which they were attempting to bond, and Dany's like, hey girl, let me hold your hand and we could talk about things. And then Sansa's very blunt and is like, all right, so like we win, we beat Cersei, then what? Because the North ain't bending the knee to any king or queen ever again. And that was kind of oh, never mind, I take it all back. And so Jon's kind of thrown in the middle here, while Sansa is obviously not getting along with Dany, continuing from last week. And even if our heroes are victorious next week, again, they have a lot of threats that they're going to have to deal with, including the Golden Company and Cersei. Now, I said this last week, and I kind of see this continuing, that the North has essentially become the South when it comes to politics. And even at one point with Tyrion, who's kind of going through loss after loss after loss, even kind of was like doing a little bit of foreshadowing, talking to Jorah and also talking to Varys, saying, I'm assuming that one of you is going to have this, referring to the Hand of the King's pin by the end of this. And so Is that foreshadowing to potential Tyrion's death, or the fact that is Jorah standing up for him enough that Dany's able to be like, all right, listen, like I want you to be in the crypts because I want you to be safe. Also, we had Arya, who was kind of taking the Tormund route and was like, hey, so this is probably our last night on Earth. Hey, big muscular blacksmith man, Gendry, you and me are doing this because they were doing sexy eyes all of last week and doing sexy eyes this week. And let's just say, Gendry gave her more than just a spear. That's a sex joke, and I had to look it up and make sure that Maisie Williams, the actress who plays Arya's age, was over 18, and she's 22, and it was funny, too, because HBO even tweeted out that she was like, checklist of things to do before turning 18, basically saying to viewers, like, what you're watching is fine. It's okay, even though I'm not going to lie, it felt a little bit uncomfortable, because it was like, I've seen you as a small child. This is a weird moment. But hey, kudos to her. We also didn't spend any time in King's Landing. However, we did kind of get confirmation that Cersei is pregnant, but that makes last week's events even more confusing because she was drinking during it. And so while I don't know if she's going to pass off the baby as Euron's or if she's going to say it's Jaime's, I kind of don't know how that's going to go. But if I was a betting man, I would say that Cersei and her baby are not going to survive the season anyway. Saw Theon Greyjoy return to Winterfell. Obviously, the last time he was there, he was held captive by Ramsay Bolton and helped Sansa escape. And then he returned to Sansa, and I thought it was a very touching moment of saying, like, I want to fight for Winterfell, because this is really his redemption. And even going so far as saying to Bran that I'm going to protect you in the Godswood, because I took the castle from you years prior, right, back in the early seasons, and now this is my form of redemption. So I don't think Theon's going to be surviving next week, but at least he'll get that arc. Now, a couple random little tidbits I want to talk about. The idea of the Night King, this is not the first time that this has been thrown out, but it was kind of set up today and was talking about how if the Night King dies, the rest of the Army of the Dead is going to die. I don't really know how I feel about that, considering it seems a little lazy, because I feel like that's like how it usually is for like all the monster movies, right? Like whether it's vampires or zombies, it's like, kill the queen or kill the king or the leader and they all die. I don't know. I feel like, and I don't know if this is going to work, right? Because they may kill the Night King and then the rest of them are still alive, which would be a cool twist. But I just feel like for a show like Game of Thrones, in which it's kind of trying to twist your ideas of like what fantasy and fiction are, that it really wouldn't go this route. I'm not going to lie, like I would be a little bit disappointed if they just like kill the Night King and then they're like, we win, we did it, after killing that one person. But who knows if that's even going to be successful. In the coming attractions, you saw dragons abound, so God, so everyone's going to die. But we'll see if that plan actually winds up working, or as in some of the previews showed, like when they were doing those little teasers, that Winterfell was overtaken by the Army of the Dead. It just showed a bunch of snow everywhere. Is that actual foreshadowing, or is that just like a random teaser? And of course, we have one of the most wholesome moments, I would argue, of the entire series, and that is Brienne finally and deservingly becoming a knight by the hands of Jaime Lannister. Of course, they're all sitting around the fire. Tormund, who I love with a burning passion, explains how he got the nickname Giant's Bane by killing a giant and then being nursed for 3 months by a giant, and then he sloppily drunk a horn to all the gulping sounds and the disgust of everyone in the group. And I love kind of just the interactions between Tormund, Jaime, and Brienne. And that Brienne, obviously, while she's being knighted, like this is something that she's kind of always wanted. She obviously has some feelings towards Jaime, even though I would like it to be with Tormund, but you know, it's 2019, everyone can pick who they want to love. And so I think that this is a really big moment, and it really just, I'm going to be really upset if she dies after this, because, like, she's fulfilled all her oaths, she's finally become a knight. What else is there for her to do? I would love if Brienne survives this, but I feel like Brienne, Tormund, and Jaime, all three of them are not going to be able to make it out of this. Also, Sam winds up giving Heartsbane to Jorah, which basically means that he's most likely going to die as well, considering Jorah, I didn't even suspect that he was going to be around this long, but him sacrificing himself for Daenerys probably seems like the way to go for him. And so that kind of gets us to present. So this kind of brings us to the end of the episode, and like next week, it's gonna go down. It's the longest sustaining battle in cinema and TV history, beating out Helm's Deep from the Lord of the Rings, which also, this was very Lord of the Rings-esque, for example, with Podrick singing Jenny's song, which is from the book. It's from a Storm of Swords, when Arya hears it with the Brotherhood, with some additional lyrics, and I just thought, like, it reminded me a lot of, like, the Lord of the Rings, like, even when you're talking about The Hobbit, when they're singing the mountain song, or you can even start talking about like Pip when he starts singing as well in Return of the King. So lots of things going on here. But what I'm curious and what you think is, who is going to survive next week? Is anyone going to survive? Are all our heroes going to die? And then the Army of the Dead is just going to march down to King's Landing? Because, I mean, right now we have 4 episodes left of Game of Thrones, and then it is over forever. And next week is all one battle, and then there's just 3 left to kind of sum this and wrap this entire thing up. It's gonna be quite the ride, but I'm here for it. Let me know what you think about the episode down below. I thought this was much better than last week's. I would give this a 9.3 if I was rating it. But let me know what you think down below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, at TomGrossiComedy on all the social medias. See down below. Game of Toms will be back here next week with, I'm sure, many reactions, many tears, but always Game of Thrones. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and please don't kill Tormund.